Happy New Year. Welcome back, everybody, for a special Year in Review 2024 episode of the show, where we're going to go over the numbers for the entire year of 2024. For those who don't know me, my name is Paul. I lost my job back in May of this year. Decided I didn't want to punch a time clock for someone else anymore in my life. And while I was looking for things to do, I stumbled across eBay YouTube, and I found a lot of different eBay resellers. And I started learning, and I decided that I was going to jump into the eBay reselling game. Started my journey. I documented here on YouTube from day one. If you want to go back and see how far I've come throughout the year, you can see that every week, doing the top 10 with a few scattered videos here and there on other subjects. We're going to go over today our numbers for the year, how I did, what it means to me, whether or not I feel like it's a success. Hopefully you guys can learn something moving forward. I just want to say before going into this, I knew I was going to go back to college too, full time. And I set myself up financially a lot in the past, so I always had a decent savings. I was never worried about actual money-making side of eBay reselling. What I always wanted was steady growth, and I would have been happy, very happy, making just $1,000 extra a month in profit. So stay tuned to find out if I met that goal since starting in May. Let's go ahead and jump into the numbers for 2024. From May 10th to December 31st, I did a gross sales of $17,151, and I did a net sales of $8,465. Now remember, my happy goal would be making $1,000 a month. So let's do it. May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I'm glad I kept my expectations realistic. I was able to meet the goal of making $1,000 a month in my first year, and I've learned a lot of lessons since back in May, which are teaching me how to develop and grow. Looking at it, my first month ever doing it, and if you go back and watch the first episodes of this show, I legitimately thought I wasn't going to get my first sale on eBay for 3 months. For some reason in my head, I was like, I got 3 months to make one sale to make this a proof of concept, to be considered a success in my eyes. I ended up getting my first sale on day number 3 of reselling, and I sold a golf putting mat to a very wonderful woman in Lower Michigan who bought it from me, and she started the journey. And my second sale was a good friend of mine, Shannon. Shannon, thank you very much. Also a member of the channel. I appreciate you, Shannon. And then it has just grown since there. So our first month of May, and it was literally May 10th for the rest of the month. My first month, I did a gross of $1,096.22, which was a net of $697.96. Now you can see the projection of the year for me as a brand new reseller. Next month did 2,000 growth. Following month dipped down in 1,900 in gross. Third month did 2,300 in gross. Fourth month, 2,000 growth, 2,600. October was 2,400, and then December, which is my second best month, might be first as far as net, which it is. It's my best month for net, second best month for gross sales. One thing to keep in mind in this, when I started off in May, and I just want to be honest and upfront, I didn't know anything about business policies. I didn't know anything about sales and promotions or having a store subscription. Month number 1, I did not have a store subscription. At the end of June is when I got my first store subscription, and I got the $5 subscription just to get me in the door. Did not play around with the features of sale or anything like that. And then had that same subscription for July. End of July, I bumped up, and then I got the next subscription up, which I believe was 1,000 listings. I had the 1,000 listings until September. September is then when I jumped in and I bought the $60 subscription so I could go over 1,000 listings a month. And I currently have the subscription that allows you 10,000 free listings a month. And this is also where I started getting in to learn how to play around with the sales features and the discount features. Another thing to note throughout the year, when I started in May, I took the advice of listing every single day and having a goal for listing. And I wanted to start off small and grow. So in May, I was only listing 3 items a day, and I did that from May until mid-June. And then mid-June, I bumped it up to 5. I did 5 items a day for June, all the way through July, and partially into August. And then August is where I kicked it up to 8, and I did 8 all the way through the end of September. And then since I believe October on, I have been consistently doing 12 items a day, listing 12 items a day. Now, one thing about the pressure of doing a set number of listings a day is you have to have the inventory to meet that listings. And when you do this and you first start off, because you don't know any better, you just start buying up random inventory. You do your best to try to go through the comp sell rates, but inevitably you get not great inventory, slow moving inventory. So there's a lesson to learn. When you're setting your goals and your listing goals, make sure it's realistic to what you can source in your area and what you want to sell to. If you want to niche down and just sell shirts, jeans, whatever you want to sell, make sure whatever goals you set for yourself are realistic and they are achievable. And if they're achievable, you will succeed. Average gross per sale for the year of 2024 was $26.80. My average net profit per sale was $13.17. My average net profit for the year was 49%. I like 50, so it's good to see right there. Average net profit per sale was 46%. Just going over the top 3 sources by returns. Home, obviously, when you first start off, you're selling the items that you don't use around your house. And I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a tax professional, don't listen to what I'm saying. You figure out what's best for your business. I have listed my items from home as a zero cost of goods. With them being zero cost of goods, it shows it as pure profit, so I have to pay the max on them for taxes. So you don't have to do it. There's lots of different ways you could do it. Talk to a tax professional to get them to figure it out. The way I figured it out with the YouTube and broadcasting myself to the world, I got so much controversy when I first started. I said, screw it. I'm just going to list all my cost of goods for home items at $0. I'll pay the full price on the taxes. That way I know Uncle Sam and the IRS can't come after me and get mad at me. Second biggest earner for me was garage sales. Garage sales are huge for your business. When garage sale season is around, or if you're fortunate enough to live somewhere in the world where you get garage seasons all year round, utilize those the most, because that's where you're going to get the best deals, and the lower cost of goods you have, the higher profit margin you're going to make when you sell them on eBay. And then number 3 is sunglasses. A lot of you know I try to do like side niches, sunglasses being my main side niche. It is my 3rd biggest money maker for my business personally. And then you have the slew of thrift stores going throughout that, as well as donated items. One thing about this piece of advice, tell everybody what you do. And when you tell them what you do, you'll be surprised how many people are very generous and like, hey, I'm trying to get rid of all this stuff. Do you want it? Do you want to take it and sell it on eBay? And you get free cost of goods. All right. Here's the big stuff. What did I spend on new inventory in 2024? I spent $5,845 on new inventory in 2024. The cost of goods that sold was $1,703. I paid eBay for the year $2,473 in marketplace fees, and I paid parcel services $3,910 to get the packages where they were going. This year, I listed a total of 2,491 items, of which 629 sold. Average time for me to list something from the point I got it to the point I listed it was 4 months. One thing that's really skewed about that, for all my home inventory, I put the purchase date at May 1st, 2019. Don't ask me why, I just did. So that's why that's skewed a little bit. If you're going just off raw purchases that I made during the year, it would be a lot less than 4 months. Average time to sell something in my store in 2024 was 2 months. We made a 393% return on investment and an average return on investment per sale of 526%. All right, real quickly for this format, I wanted to show you guys the studs and duds of 2024. So what we're going to do is we're going to rapid fire through my top 10 worst sales, my top 10 best sales of 2024, and then I'm just going to give you my advice on what I've learned on the different assets of reselling here on eBay. Let's jump into the top 10 duds of 2024. Number 10 is this Tommy Bahama Relax Keep It Simple cotton t-shirt. I picked this up for $4.02. It sold on eBay for $13.57. My net return on it was $1.50. Not a great return. Live, you learn, you move on, you stop buying this inventory. At least I didn't lose on that one. And trust me, there are a couple that I've lost on. Number 9 dud of the year is this Gambler audio cassette by Kenny Rogers. Picked it up for 25 cents. It sold for $7.82. The net profit on it was $1.42. Not the greatest in the world, but turning a quarter into $1.42 is still good. You just have to have the volume to keep that going over and over if you want to make that system work. When I first started, I was very into that system. As I'm evolving, I am learning buy better items worth more money that you can make a higher profit per sale. Number 8 is this Death Leopard On Through the Night cassette. Picked it up for 50 cents, made $1.41 net profit on it. Like I said, cassettes, you're going to make your money. You're just going to make it really, really slowly. However, there are certain cassettes out there that sell for $20, $30, $40. You just got to find the right ones. That's why when you're out listing, you got to take the time to research every single one. Number 7 is this vintage Rook card game, 1936 Parker Brothers. I was at a garage sale and I bought a giant box of vintage board games. And after averaging all the price out, it was $3.33 per game. I did have 2 of the game, this one and another were just missing pieces and weren't complete. So I didn't make a lot of profit on them. However, all the other games in there sold for substantially more money and I made profit. So this was $3.33 and it made a profit of $1.21. Number 6 dud of 2024 is this Stanford men's button-up shirt. Bought this like in my first week of reselling, not knowing anything about clothes or fashion, and didn't know the brand. Picked it up for $3.09. I only made $1.19 profit on the deal. Not the greatest. Lesson learned. Don't buy, make sure you research every brand of shirt you're buying to know that there's a decent profit in it. Number 5 dud of the year is this Evening with John Denver cassette. Picked it up for 25 cents, made 96 cents after everything was said and done. Not the greatest pickup. Already talked about cassette tapes in general. Same applies. 4th dud of the year is this vintage 1915 Parker Brothers game, Game of Flags. Same story as that Rook game. Bought it in the same box for $3.33. I made a net return of 49 cents. I didn't lose money on it. Still not a great. And the number 3 dud is this Calvin Klein women's 1X Peacoat. Now this did actually make quite a profit. It just didn't make a profit for me. This was the one item this year that my mom asked me to sell for her on consignment. And after it sold, I gave all the profit to my mom. My mom ended up making $32.99 on this sale. But me personally, I made nothing. I broke even. Actually, if you consider I paid for the shipping material, I lost money on the deal. I lost probably like 12 cents on the deal. And the number 2 dud of the year is this vintage 1970s Avon 10-point buck whitetail aftershave bottle. This one I picked up without doing any research on it. I was like, oh, this is a cool item. And that's one thing when you get into this, there's times where you're just like, oh, I think this item's cool. Let me buy this. Like, I would love to have this sitting on my mantle. And I purchased this for $3.68. And I actually, after everything was said and done, shipping and all that, I ended up losing money on this sale. And I lost 53 cents on this sale. Lesson learned, don't get blinded by the Avon tag. Not every Avon is worth a ton of money. Lesson learned, and I moved on. And the number 1 dud of the year is the lot of 69 Foster's Grant brand sunglasses, frames only. This item sold a few weeks back. I've already touched on why this is my number 1 dud of the week. I bought a whole bunch of sunglasses. When I started listing them, I never factored that I'd get scratches. Over the course of listing hundreds and hundreds of sunglasses, and through my QA process, I would find ones that had light to severe scratches on it. Whenever I found them in the QA process, I'd throw them into a box, let them build up. Once I got done with this last shipment of sunglasses, I lotted all the scratch ones up, sold them as scratch sunglasses. This was my first eBay auction that sold, and it sold on auction for $29.98, $9.98 for the sunglasses, and $20 for the shipping. I factored in and I went through, instead of going back and changing all the prices on all of my sunglasses beforehand, my cost of goods, I decided to just keep the same cost of goods for these ones, which would make it accurate for accounting purposes. And the purchase price on it was $76.16. And after selling it, I ended up with a net loss of $61.89, but at least I did recoup some of the money that I put into it. And now we're going to move on to the top 10 studs of 2024. And I thought about filming this episode a day or two early just to have it ready so I didn't have to rush editing today to try to get it out in a timely manner. But I decided no, because I had faith that I might have a big sale before the year's end. And in fact, my last sale of the year ended up making it into the top 10 studs of the year, which made me really happy. There's all, like, when you have a week where you have just the one item selling make your whole entire week, it's always great. So let's go ahead and jump into the top 10 studs of 2024. Number 10 is this iWalk 2.0 hands-free walking knee crutch. Now, I would have never picked up this item ever had I not watched eBay Reselling on YouTube. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Justin Resells, one of my huge inspirations of getting into this. I obviously use Flipwise. I believe in his product, the product of Flipwise. It's fantastic. Justin did a video where he shows you how he lists items with his taking pictures on his phone and his process of listing. In it, he used the iWalk, I believe it was 3.0 as an example, and later on, watching his episodes, I saw what it sold for. And because I was armed with that knowledge and I saw the 2.0 in a thrift store, and at the time it was marked 75% off, and I had a 50% off coupon for it as well, I ended up getting this for dirt cheap, knowing it was worth a great price. I picked this up at a thrift store at a St. Vincent's for $2.59. It sold on eBay for $74.98, and it says plus free shipping, because this was the only item I've ever had where I did local pickup only. It was a big thing to learn how to do that and set up a policy for it. I ended up having to take the listing down, add local pickup only, and I went and I actually drove it out to the gentleman who purchased it, who just got done having a surgery. He was super thankful I did it, and this was a great sale for me, netting me $60.58. Number 9 stud of 2024 is this vintage black Sharp Boombox WX276 stereo radio cassette recorder. I picked it up for $3.42. It sold for $95, which ended up giving me a net return of $67.37. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of selling vintage stereos. It's one of my favorite things to sell on eBay. If you find the right one, you're going to make a great profit. Number 8 sale of the year. 2024, this Mitchell & Ness Green Bay Packers 1966 Ray Nitschke jersey. Picked this jersey up at a garage sale for $3. It sold for $88.45, which was a net return of $67.50. Jerseys, no matter what they are usually going to be a great pickup. And then you're going to find jerseys that are worth a lot of money. I love buying jerseys and selling jerseys on eBay, and they can be from college, they can be from pro leagues. Jerseys sell. Right now, I have 2 Little League World Series jerseys up that are getting a ton of views and a ton of watchers. People are always searching for jerseys. Number 7 stud of 2024 is this lit autographed 8x10 signed by the entire band. This is an item from home. Like I said, I've had this for years. I have no clue where I got it, but I've always had it, carried it around the world with me everywhere I went. Not even a big fan of the band Lit. I still to this day don't know where I got it. And I sold it on eBay for $84.28, which was good enough for a net profit of $67.57. The number 6 stud of 2024 is this vintage 1987 Magnavox CD player. This did have an issue with it. I put read in the title, and I put a video on with it to help it sell faster. The issue with this CD player was when you hit eject, the thing would come up and it wouldn't open the door. But if you held the lip of the door open, slid right out, put the CD in, it would slide back in, play the CD fine. That was the only issue with it. I picked this up for $4.08 at a Goodwill in Wisconsin. It sold on eBay for $105. That was good enough for a net profit. That was good enough for a net return of $73.70. The number 5 stud of 2024 is this Magnavox MWD 2206 VCR DVD combo. Tested, see video, The remote control, because I sell remotes, I had a remote that worked for the DVD player, did not work for the VCR, but I was still able to bundle that with it to increase the value of this. I got this for free. I was at a St. Vincent de Paul's, and a lady was coming in to drop off donations, and she asked if they took VCRs, DVDs. The guy behind the counter said, "Nah, we don't take electronics." I looked at her and said, "I do." Like, I screamed it across the store, and she ended up giving it to me. She was a wonderful lady. We had a nice conversation for about 15-20 minutes. She gave it to me for free. It sold on eBay for $104.98. That was good enough for a net return of $84.09. For the number 4 stud of 2024, which was also my last sale of the year 2024. This sale happened yesterday. I sold this vintage Ralph Lauren jacket, medium blue, bomber lined. And this is a spoiler for this Sunday's episode, by the way, because there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to be the number 1 sale of the week. So for those who watch the weekly episodes regularly, I apologize for the spoiler. I picked this up at a St. Vincent's in Green Bay for $4.43. It sold on eBay for $127.10, which was good enough for a $98.35 net return. That was a great way to end out 2024. Number 3 stud of the year is this Sony MHC EC55 mini hi-fi component stereo system. I purchased this for $7.50 at a garage sale. And this was like in my first 2 weeks of doing eBay. Me and my mom went out garage sailing together. We found this. I already had my hands full. I threw all the stuff in my mom's hand just so I could grab the stereo. It ended up selling on eBay for $144.87, which was good enough for a $98.76 net return. Number 2 sale of the year 2024 is this Sony CE 375 5-disc changer bundled with remote and instructions. I got this off Facebook Marketplace. I found a lady who was selling this. She was asking $30 for it. I offered $25. She accepted. I drove out to meet her at her house. Wonderful woman. Her and her husband just moved to the area so he could be closer for his medical treatment. And she sold me this, and then she was like, "Well, I've got other electronics." And she was in the process of moving, but the only one she had was an old tube TV. And she's like, "It works great. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." It was a tube TV with a DVD player in it, and she didn't take any money for that. So I paid $25 for the both of them. I made the cost of goods $12.50 for this, $12.50 for the TV. I did end up selling that TV for a good profit, just not good enough to make it on the top 10. But the 5-disc player did sell for $171.93, which was good enough for a net return of $117.33 for me. Which brings us to the number 1 stud of 2024. And let me tell you guys, this item is probably the main reason I am still an eBay reseller to this day. And it's the reason I'm probably still here on YouTube doing these videos for you. I picked this item up day 1 of eBay reselling, going out and sourcing at a thrift store. It is a rare vintage Vision Perfect Cleaner VC 8088 VHS videotape 2-way machine automatic. If you go back and watch my first episode ever, this was in my first week sales video ever. I picked this up for $5 at a thrift store. I got it home and I didn't do any of the comps on it. Like, I was still new, trying to figure out. I was just like, "Oh, this looks cool. It's probably worth something." Come to find out, is one of the most, when it comes to VHS peripherals and electronics, this is like one of the most rare ones you could possibly find. And this one was sealed in the box. Like, everything was factory sealed. The box was open, but when you open it up, everything else was wrapped in plastic. What it is literally a square box. It looks like a Walkman, an old Walkman, but for a VHS. Like, the buttons on top are just like a Walkman, and it cleans the VHS tape. It has the ointment to clean it, and it's also a rewinder, a VHS rewinder. And when I started doing the research on this, the last one that sold was out of Australia at the time, and it sold for like 400 Australian. So after doing a bunch of research, listed it up my first week, like day one of eBay reselling, and I started reselling on a Saturday. This sold on Wednesday, the following Wednesday, for $362.12, which was good enough of a net return of $292.34. It was selling this item that gave me that shot of adrenaline, that rush, that hit that everybody loves with reselling, where I knew I was going to continue to do this, and I have not regretted my decision ever since. This was still to this day the best find I've ever had, and what makes me excited about doing this job is I'm always one day, one sourcing trip from finding another item like this, and another, and another, and another. And this is how you make a living on eBay, is selling these items. And those are my top 10 studs and duds for 2024. It has been a wild ride. I have learned so much. I've changed so much how I do throughout the business. And I just wanted to go through and offer up a couple pieces of advice for every aspect of eBay reselling, breaking it down of sourcing, listing, shipping, and customer service, and then just general advice. Starting off with sourcing. I know it seems overwhelming when you're new. Take the time to research every product. Take the time to understand sold comps on different merchandise. If you're in a niche, it's probably a lot easier. Once you start getting the flow, you get that wealth of knowledge for that one specific product. As you can see, I'm an everything reseller, so I'm constantly searching multiple categories and comp sold rates through, and no two are the same. And you have to make sure you're making good buys for your inventory on stuff that's going to sell. Also, when it comes to sourcing, use your time efficiently and wisely. When it's garage sale season in your area, make garage sales the primary sourcing component for yourself. And then if you're like me, where you live in a winter climate where that totally kills garage sales and estate sales, that's when you start focusing on other avenues of sourcing, such as thrift stores, antique stores, and things like that. Moving on to listing. Listing, when you first start off, it feels like the most cumbersome, burdening thing. You feel lost. You don't know what you're doing. My recommendation is, if you're starting off, the first thing you're going to want to do is research and try to find the same item or a very similar item that is already sold on eBay. And my first recommendation is one that's sold. So if you can find the same item or one very similar that's sold, build your listing off that one. As you go along and you get more comfortable, you're going to come across a lot of items that either you haven't sold or you can't find one that's similar enough. Learn as you're copying other people's listings that have sold, what sticks out to you. How great are the titles? Titles to me are the most important thing, and getting that structure. When I first started off, I did not structure titles that well, and I'm constantly going back and revamping older listing titles because I just had no clue what I was doing. Even though I watched a lot of other people do it and I tried to learn and absorb as much as I can, I just felt so overwhelmed where I was just stealing stuff that sold and not really putting a lot of effort into it. As I've evolved, I've put way more into it. I standardize my titles. When I sell a pair of sunglasses, I know exactly how I'm going to sell that sunglasses. Brand, what it is, model, any extra keywords. That's how I sell sunglasses. When it comes to clothes, brand, gender size, what it is, keywords. That's how I do it. Everybody's got different advice on how to structure titles. My advice is take all the good in from everybody, learn what works for you. When you find something that works for you, standardize it and make it a process in your business. Also, when it comes to listing, I personally am a firm believer in item specifics are key. And what you're going to notice is, as you're stealing other people's listings that sold and you're going through and looking through other people's stuff, you're going to find out a lot of sellers don't put any effort into the item specifics. And that's one area where you can stand out, is by filling in those item specifics. When you first start out, you're going to be slow at it. You're going to make mistakes. And that's something you need to do. You need to make mistakes because you learn from mistakes. When you make a mistake, learn from it to be better tomorrow. With that said, you're going to feel overwhelmed when you start. Just like anything else you do in life, it's going to be tough, but the more you do it, the more proficient you're going to become at it. When I started off to list one item, it probably took me 20 to 30 minutes to list an item because I was trying to go in depth on everything. I thought I wanted to have the super highest quality photos, and good photos are a key aspect, but you just learn how to do these things quicker, how to take good photos at a quicker rate, what angles you need, what it is, what item you're selling, what photographs you are going to need of it. Prime examples of this: shirts. I have a standardized how I photograph shirts. I start off with an overview showing you the whole shirt, then I zoom in on the upper chest, and then I zoom in on the tag. Then if it has specialty buttons, I take a close-up of the specialty buttons. Then I do pit to pit, I do top to bottom, and flip it around, and I do the other I do the back by itself. If there's anything on the back, like a special tag or a logo, I'll do a zoom in on the logo, fold it up, put it in its poly mailer that it's going to ship in, put it in my inventory system right here, in these buckets right here. That's all clothes right there. For sunglasses, I have a very unique way I photograph sunglasses. Most people do their generic photo, just a straight on look. I do a top down angled view, second photo straight look, then I do a 360 all around of each side of the sunglasses. Then I do each side of the tag to show people, because I sell new with tag sunglasses. Remotes are another standardized thing I do. Full face shot of the remote, angled all sides of the remote, battery compartment, battery back. And that's how I do that. And one of the things in my process for me that works for me, and I know not everybody does this, that makes it quicker. What I do is I stage everything that I plan on upcoming selling. So for me, how I do this for a week is I sell 12 items. I list 12 items a day: 3 shirts, 3 sunglasses, 3 remotes, and then 3 random picks. Could be hats, could be stereos. That's how I have my business structured. And what I do is, if I'm doing it day to day, I will take all the pictures. So I say I'm doing 3 shirts. I'll have the 3 shirts piled right here, ready to go. Here's my photo board. I will knock out all the pictures for those shirts. Then I'll move on and do the sunglasses, the remotes, and the hard goods from my hard goods photo station, which is right beyond it right there. And then I have all the photos taken. Then what I do is I take those photos, I upload them to my computer. I have a folder of all the photos in order, and then I just sit down, open up, create the listing, transfer the photos, do the item specifics, boom. Now, to do a listing, it takes me less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. To do all my photographs, to do photographs for the 12 items, that probably takes me 15 to 20 minutes to photograph all the items. And then per listing, it probably takes me 2 minutes, if that, to create a listing for each product. So 2 minutes times 12, 24 minutes, 20 to picture. I can probably do 12 items in 45 minutes. Easily. 12 separate items. If I sit down, sometimes I'll just sit down and just do nothing but remotes or nothing but sunglasses. If I do that, I can knock out 50 in an hour. Easy. 50 sunglasses or 50 remotes. Shirts, just because of the movement of the shirts, take a little bit longer. I think in an hour, I could reasonably do 20 to 25 shirts in an hour. And it's just building those calluses of doing it repetitively over and over and finding the best process that works for you. So that's my advice on listing. Next up is shipping. Shipping is one of the things where I think if you're going to have to spend any money in your business, you want to make sure you're spending it in shipping. You want to make sure that when you package an item and you ship it off to your customer, they're going to receive it in the same condition they saw it in the listing. And obviously we have no control over what any parcel service does with our package, but we have control over how that item is packaged in that box. So do everything in your power to make sure that a parcel service can't destroy the product. With that said, there's no such thing as perfection, and stuff gets broken and stuff gets damaged, which brings me on to my advice for customer service. When you're first starting off, I know, because I've literally done this year. I was like, I don't want any returns. I was scared of returns. I was scared to deal with any issues. Don't be scared. Best advice, when you start, before you even list your first item, research business policies and what you want your business policies to be. So what you want your shipping policies to be, who you want to ship with, how you want to charge. Do you want to do calculated shipping? Do you want to do flat rate shipping? I recommend, if you're first starting off, doing calculated shipping on everything. And I believe it was J-Ride, the advice I got from J-Ride, don't go beyond calculated shipping until you've sold and shipped your first 100 items, because that's when you're going to have the knowledge base of what things go for and then how to structure your shipping, which I think is great advice. I still do a majority of calculated shipping on a lot of my stuff. The things I don't do calculated shipping on are stereos and big items, because the bigger something gets, the more skewed it gets out of control in the shipping difference of what the parcel services charge the customer to what they charge you as if you get the eBay discounts. And that's the thing, know your eBay discounts. And I know a lot of people say that they want to pass their discount onto the customer to increase sales, which I understand. And if your business can afford that, do it. Personally, I'm not there yet where I don't think it can afford it. I think that extra $1 to $3 per sales is what covers my cost to buy packing paper, to buy bubble wrap, to buy boxes, to buy poly mailers. That's what that money is used for. That's what that extra money is going for, is the material I put in to ensure I'm shipping things safely. But you're going to learn that through your business policies. Then there's going to come a point where you learn what certain items ship for all the time, so you want to have your shipping policies accordingly. Like right now, if I was to switch anything that I am currently doing on calculated to a flat rate, it would probably be remote controls, and sunglasses, same thing. I can relatively know what each remote control in each sunglass is going to cost to ship anywhere in the country, and I could probably do a flat rate shipping on those. But here's the thing, the flat rate isn't going to be a lot different than what the calculated rate would be, but this is all stuff you're going to learn with experience and as you go on and you continue on your journey. And I very well might switch to flat rate on those specific items, but as of right now, sales are good enough to where I'm comfortable keeping at calculated. Other business policies. Do you want to do international shipping, which I highly recommend? As long as you don't opt out of it, you're automatically enrolled in it. International shipping is great simply for the fact, if you sell something international shipping, all your responsibility is to get it to eBay in Chicago. That's it. It gets there, then they take it out of your packing, they repack it, send it overseas. If there's a refund, they deal with it. Refund policies. There's all kinds of different options. As you guys know, I started off with buyer pays returns, and I had it set for, I want to say 30 days. I think I've always had 30 days. And then after learning how returns work on eBay, so for those who don't know, if you do buyer pays returns, as long as the return is not something that is deemed your fault, whether it is your fault or not, the buyer pays for the return label out of what they were charged for the product. However, if they open the return as item is not as described or item arrived damaged, you don't have a choice either way. You're doing free returns. And it got to the point where every return was something that was beyond my control. Like it would get damaged in shipping and I had to pay the return label anyway. So basically I was doing free returns without the benefits in the algorithm boost of free returns. So I switched my policy to 30-day free returns. And the reason I did 30-day free returns is that is the minimum to meet the goal for top rated plus. So if you're already a top rated seller and you just don't have free returns, that's the only thing stopping you from getting top rated plus. Anecdotally, in my store, I have seen a boost in sales since getting the top rated plus badge on a vast majority of my items, because there are some items that I sell that don't have returns. Like if I sell a damaged stereo and I'm clearly selling it as a damaged stereo, there's no returns on that. I'm not going to sell you a damaged stereo. You get it and say, oh, well, this is damaged, just like the item describes, but I'm going to open it as item not described because I know I can win that case. And then you got to bring it back. So I have no returns on those. But everything else that I have free 30-day returns on, you get the badge. That badge, anecdotally, I feel it gives you a boost in the algorithm. I don't know what the eBay algorithm is. I can just tell you what I've seen in my store and through my sales. So business policies are key. Make sure you set good business policies. Customer service. I am a firm believer in communicating with your customers. If a customer reaches out to me and asks me a question, I have levels of how I feel about it. If it's a question that's not answered in my listing, no problems whatsoever. Then you're going to get a lot of questions that could be answered if you looked at the pictures and read the listings. Depending on what the question is, I have no problem holding a person's hand through it. Like, I love the question, can I get the measurements armpit to armpit, top to bottom on a shirt? I will literally go into the listing and screenshot the measurement photos and say, absolutely no problem, here you go, and paste them into the private DM chat. I know some people get frustrated by that. Here's what I will say. There's no problem answering any question for a customer. But if you're at the point where you're answering 3 or more, I would say 5 or more, but really, once you get 3 questions and there's not a purchase and there's just more questions and more questions, it's probably not going to be a good sale. Even if you make the sale, it's probably not going to be a good sale, because at that point, they're having high expectations on a 15-year-old used shirt. And if you sell it to them, the odds are it's going to go. I don't like blocking people, but I don't have a problem of saying, hey, it seems like you have a lot of worry in this. Just so you know, this is a used shirt that has been worn. The description is very accurate. The listing is very accurate. If you don't think it's going to meet your satisfaction, I don't think this is the shirt for you to buy. And I don't say that to sound mean when you're talking to the customer, but be real with the customer. Like, if you buy this, I don't want to have to deal with a return 2 weeks from now because you don't like the color of it, or you didn't read the size information, or you didn't look at the measurement pictures. There's no problem with that. Just be kind of respectful about it. Remember, it's the customers who are paying us, the sellers, to do this. Without their money, we don't have a job here. But in the same token, there is a point where you got to realize there's a profit and loss aspect of this, knowing that if I sell this, I'm just going to be dealing with a return. But provide the best customer service you can. I think one of the number one positive comments I get are fast shipping and lightning fast communication, because to me, I treat it like a text message. Oh, look, got a text message. Let me respond. Go. So that would be my advice there. General advice I have for you overall in reselling, if you're thinking about getting into reselling, it would be don't let yourself talk yourself out of it. If it's something you want to try and you want to get into, jump into the waters. I mean, the worst thing you can do is list 5 items, realize you don't like it, delist them, close your store. But you're never going to know unless you actually get out there and try to do it. And when you try doing something, you're going to make mistakes. And making mistakes is okay. Show yourself some grace. When you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Say, okay, what did I do wrong? Learn from that. Say, okay, this is what I did wrong. I'm not going to do that again in the future. And here's what I'm going to do to mitigate not doing this mistake again in the future. And as long as you stick with it and you keep learning, eventually you're going to make a profit. Now, I didn't get into expenses on this, so I made $8,400 in profit. Here's another piece of advice. Keep track of all your expenses. If you buy a rack for your inventory, keep the receipt for that rack that you purchased and write that off on your taxes. Again, I am not a tax advisor. I'm not a financial consultant. Make sure you talk to a certified CPA. But anytime you spend money directly for your business, keep the receipt and make sure you're deducting all your expenses. If you are driving to garage sales, if you are driving to thrift stores, keep track of your mileage. That is going to be your biggest write-off. Your biggest write-off, what's going to make this job worth it, and what's going to make it ease your tax burden, and what's going to make this job doable, is budgeting your life and tracking your miles. If you do those 2 things, you're going to be okay in this world. I've literally hyper budgeted my life this year after I lost my job to where I only need to make $65 in profit a week in order to meet all my obligations. I have a lot of other sources of income that come in, but for eBay, what I need just to survive, not thrive, just to survive, is $65 a week. I have been blessed and fortunate enough to hit that goal consistently throughout the year 2024. And it doesn't happen without eBay. It doesn't happen without making mistakes. It doesn't happen without making that first step and listing an item on eBay and getting my first sale and getting my second and third and eventually 624 in my first year, not having a clue what I'm doing or how I even got to where I'm at. Now my garage is taken over by an eBay operation. Like 1/3 of my garage is dedicated to the eBay operation. All my 4-wheelers and all my lawnmowers and all my tools and that, they're slowly creeping into one side and they're starting to get cramped. And they used to have the rule of the roost here in the garage. But I love doing this. I love waking up every day and knowing what I need to get done to be successful, and knowing that I have a life where I can If I catch up my eBay store where it can run on its own for a couple days, great. I can go help my parents with a side project they're working on as they're getting older. Me and my brother can go see a concert in Green Bay. I don't have to worry about spending all day in 3 different cities hitting up 7 different thrift stores to get back and list. It's just, once you get it flowing and you get it going, you're going to realize this is such a rewarding job, and for the amount of time you put into it, the comeback is very great. With that said, this isn't easy. I'm not saying this is easy free money. It's work. In order to have that kind of time where you can go do other stuff, when it's time to do eBay stuff and it's time to take pictures and it's time to list, as you can see, this bucket right here is filled up with shirts. Knock it out. That's a couple days worth of shirts right there. But you're going to sit down and you're going to be busting through it for the next 2 hours, getting all those things photographed, listed, prepped, scheduled, and then ran. And then there's the administrative side of it. When you have stuff that's been in your inventory for more than 90 days, how do I get rid of this? How do I make this more enticing for somebody to purchase? Change the title, use the discount features, use a coupon code. It's a great journey and it's fun to learn. I'll always give you guys the best advice I can when I have it. And yeah, just make the leap. And when you're new and you're getting into it, here's some advice for those who have been who are seasoned eBay resellers. Don't gatekeep. I know that there's a very split community. It's a very split community in the senior resellers. There's those who are so awesome and so helpful, and that's the majority of the people I've interacted with, who are absolutely wonderful, who have been doing this for years, and they literally want everybody to succeed, and they will share every bit of knowledge they have with everybody. The one piece of knowledge nobody shares is when you get a honey hole and you get a sweet source for a certain item, and I understand that. But like the actual information on how to do things, the vast majority. But there is a small contingent of the community that wants to gatekeep because they feel new eBay resellers are ruining the business. We live in a world of 9 billion people. And I know not now 9 billion people have access to the internet, but a vast majority of those 9 billion people have access to the internet and have access to buying off eBay. Help each other out. Don't gatekeep. Share your knowledge. Build this. Build it to grow. Everybody who's out here doing this is probably doing it for different reasons, but a lot of those reasons overlap with why you're doing it. Wanting to be independent, wanting to work for yourself, wanting to be able to pay your bills and not have to answer to somebody else. That's the main reason I do this, but that's just my advice for senior resellers is don't gatekeep. And a vast majority of them don't. The majority of them are wonderful and willing to share any information, willing to help anybody out. And that's another big advice for new resellers. When you get into this, find a community of resellers. For me, it's Flipwise. It's the Flipwise community, Flipwise Discord. Like I've often called them my council of elders. If I have something that's just I'm hitting my head against the wall, I go to them, ask for help, and they always have some kind of advice, great advice that helps me figure it out and get through it. It may not always be exactly what they say, but I take what everybody says and I find the solution that works for my business. Yep. And that's all I got for 2024. I was thinking about going over my YouTube numbers, but I'll do that in Sunday's show. I'll do my YouTube numbers for the month of December, and then I'll do my YouTube numbers for all of 2024. So if you're new here and you're interested in seeing that, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can catch all my weekly episodes of what sold, my top 10 what sells, and my advice from the week. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, press the like button, as it always helps. I hope you guys had a great week. I hope you guys had a great New Year's Eve. I hope everybody had fun. Everybody stayed safe. I hope you guys have a great week to come. And as always, I will see you guys next Sunday. Have a great week, everyone.